Please welcome Robert B. Fiske, Jr.
Good evening. It is really a great privilege for me to be here, to be able to present this year's UJA Stephen E. Banner Award to my great friend, Eric Grossman. I first met Eric 25 years ago this October when he was a brand new associate at Davis Polk, fresh off a clerkship with Second Circuit Judge Richard Cardamone. It was obvious to me very early on that Eric was not just going to be a star, he was going to be a superstar, as he has indeed become. He demonstrated right from the outset the qualities that Don Bernstein referred to before, all of which gave him an extraordinary ability, even at a very early age, to instill enormous confidence in clients who relied and acted on his very sound judgment. When Eric was only like a third or fourth year associate, I got a call one day from a general counsel of a company in Denver retaining us to represent them in a very high stakes arbitration involving a failed joint venture in Malaysia. So I enlisted Jack Cooney, senior litigation partner, and Eric to help me with it. So we flew out to Denver, we met the general counsel, learned about the case. We went back a week later to learn more about it and get started. Well, within it seemed like only a very few weeks, the client wasn't calling me, wasn't calling Jack, the client was calling Eric. And Eric was in the forefront of working out a very constructive settlement proposal that resolved the case successfully. And for another very major client, for whom Eric had successfully resolved an extremely sensitive and extremely dangerous situation, as a very young litigation partner, Eric became the go-to person at Davis Polk for that client. If they had a corporate matter, a tax matter, any other kind of matter, they would go to Eric. And then Eric would talk to other people at Davis Polk and then come back and tell them which lawyer at Davis Polk they should be working on to handle that matter. Those are just two examples that demonstrate why Eric was such an extremely valuable partner at Davis Polk. I had the great pleasure of working with him on a number of matters. I tried to get him on my team every time I could, and in the process, we became great friends. And in the end of 2005, Eric was recruited away from Davis Polk by a former Davis Polk partner who is here tonight, Gary Lynch, who had recently joined Morgan Stanley. Gary, like me, had also worked closely with Eric, recognized the same qualities I did, and wanted Eric to work on his matters just as much as I did. And when he got to Morgan Stanley, first thing he wanted to do was make Eric part of the Morgan Stanley team. So Eric came to Morgan Stanley in 2006 as global head of litigation. And by 2012, in 6 short years, he'd move up to the position of chief legal officer, in which position he's the firm's most senior lawyer, responsible for managing over 1,700 people around the world in the legal and compliance divisions. In his current and former roles, he has effectively steered the company through 13 years of turbulent times marked by high-stakes litigation, complex transactions, and unprecedented regulatory change. The challenges have included multi-billion-dollar claims, the integration of Smith Barney into Morgan Stanley, and sweeping new and regulatory changes like Dodd-Frank, the Volcker Rule, and Brexit. Eric has also been a driving force behind Morgan Stanley's efforts to protect and enhance its reputation and culture. He has done this by spearheading the firm's global conduct risk framework and chairing and co-chairing the firm's Global Franchise Committee and the firm's Cultural Values and Conduct Committee, respectively. And in this regard, James Gorman, CEO of Morgan Stanley, has this to say about Eric. Eric embodies Morgan Stanley's best-in-class culture. He does so publicly and privately in formal and informal interactions. I believe his personal leadership in keeping true to our firm's core values is exceptional and very unusual. In addition to his outstanding professional leadership, Eric has been a leader at Morgan Stanley in promoting inclusion and diversity. He's done this internally in the hiring and promoting of women and minorities, and he has done it externally by raising to new heights Morgan Stanley's LEID program for outside counsel. LEID stands for Leadership and Excellence in Inclusion and Diversity, and an award is given every year to the outside law firm that demonstrates the strongest commitment to diversity and inclusion efforts. Criteria include the strength of the firm's internal program to promote diversity, and importantly, the diversity of the lawyers that are working on Morgan Stanley matters. He also started a pro bono program at Morgan Stanley in 2012 with Morgan Stanley lawyers representing battered women and trafficking victims, undocumented minors in immigration cases, and helping low-income seniors obtain debt relief. Eric is also known at Morgan Stanley, as he was at Davis Polk, for his personal interest in the lives and careers of the younger lawyers who work with him and the time and effort he spends in mentoring them to help advance their careers. As one younger Davis Polk lawyer who worked with Eric put it, what stands out for me was his passion and enthusiasm for the work. Work was never a burden. It was about a team going into battle together, fighting hard to win the right way and having fun doing it. Along with that, and a big part of it, was his personal dedication and loyalty to the people working for him in helping to foster their careers. Eric has been actively involved in outside philanthropic activities as the president of Advocates for Children, as an active participant in Fordham Alumni Affairs, and with his many contributions to Jewish organizations, including this one. And finally, Eric is a devoted family man, finding time in the midst of a crushing workload to go watch his boys in high school in midweek afternoon high school athletic events, and more recently, regularly traveling to Massachusetts and California to be there for them at their college events. And in the process, setting a great example for others as to how to balance intense commitments to work with commitments to family and other interests outside the office. Eric is a great lawyer. He's a great friend. More than that, he is a great person. He is an extraordinarily deserving recipient of the Stephen E. Banner Award, and I'm extremely privileged to be able to present it to him.